Good morning, everyone, on this lovely July morning. I'd like to welcome you all to this information session for the third Smart Mobility Community Challenge from the region of Durham, supported by the Durham RTDS. My name is Chris Gillis. I'm the Manager of Applied Research Business Development at Durham College and the lead for the college in the Durham RTDS. And for those of you not familiar with the Durham Regional Technology Development Site, we are a partnership between the Spark Center, our Regional Innovation Center, Ontario Tech U, and its A Center, Durham College, and of course the Regional Municipality of Durham. And our focus is on assisting communities with the electrification and development of smart mobility solutions within a community context. So today's challenge is mobile air quality monitoring for emergency vehicles. And the purpose of this session is to provide companies interested in proposing a solution an opportunity to get a better understanding of the challenge and ask questions related to the challenge. Just a note on any technical questions such as vehicle specifications or things like that, they really need to be submitted through the bids and tender page on the regional website. And this is because we're following a procurement process, and really all such information really must be made available to all applicants in ad addendum. And just a reminder, throughout the session, if you have questions, you should enter those in your chat box on the right-hand side of your screen. And certainly also, if you're a small or medium-sized business or a large corporation and you are thinking about participating with the Durham RTDS as a client or a partner, you can do that in parallel with this challenge. There's really nothing that is mutually exclusive really about that. So a high-level agenda for today's session, excuse me, allergies. Following this general welcome, we'll welcome Devin Prasad, who is Logistics Manager, Region of Durham Paramedic Services, and Alex Swirsky, who is the Epidemiologist for Durham Region Health Department, onto the stage to take us through the details of the challenge. I will then provide an overview of the project funding available through Ontario Centre of Innovation and the OVEN program, and then we'll open it up to have a live Q&A session with you, the audience, and then after that we'll close the session off. So on to our challenge overview. Again, please put your questions in the chat, and we'll address as many of those as we can towards the end or throughout the session as that allows. So now it's my pleasure to welcome Devin Prasad, Logistics Manager, Region of Durham Paramedic Services, and Alex Swirsky, the Epidemiologist for Durham Region, to walk us through the challenge. Alex and Devin, welcome to our stage.
Thanks, Chris.
And we'll hand that over to you. It's all yours.
Perfect.
All right. Oh, go ahead, Alex.
Okay, I am just going to give a really quick. Oh, we're good. Thanks, Devin. So Devin invited me to give a really quick overview of the Durham Region Health Department's health neighborhoods. So as we know, your health depends a lot on where you live. So that's things like the social determinants of health. So neighborhood, biology, physical environment, your income, and your environment. And then there's also the ecological determinants of health or nature's contributions to people. So that's things like regulation of air quality and climate and water, as well as regulation of hazards and extreme events. So to understand all of these things and how they may impact health, the Durham Region Health Department created the health neighborhoods. And these are 50 smaller geographic units across the region. And we look at various different measures of sociodemographics, child health, general health, and health behaviors and risks to really understand our population. Of course, my dog is going to bark now, but you can click the next button, Devin. But a huge data gap that we have right now is we don't have any environmental indicators, so things like air quality, and this is a really big and important data gap. So now Devin will speak to how the RDPS team can assist with addressing this important data gap. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. Good luck with the dog. So just a bit of background into the Region of Durham Paramedic Services, short and form, we just say RDPS. So we service currently over 700,000 residents of the Durham region. We provide primary healthcare response. We have approximately 50 ambulances, that service this region, and 11 stations across the region. Overall, in terms of our approximate call volume, it is about 150,000 calls annually, and that's been steadily going up through the last couple of years. With the exception of during COVID, we actually saw a little bit of a lull, and then it picked back up pretty much last year. It's been extremely busy, and it's sort of continued on this year. So we are still seeing that steady stream of calls coming in. In terms of our geographic area, the entirety of the Durham region, it's just under 2,600 square kilometers. To the north, we service up to Beaverton. To the west, it's Pickering. To the east, it's just east of the 115. I believe it's Newtonville, and then to the south, the borders the lake. So as you can tell, it's a fairly broad area, and so basically, due to this sort of huge area that we cover with our 50 ambulances, and it gives us a unique opportunity to be able to serve as a mobile data collection vehicle. With having this sort of dynamic fleet across the region. So this is what we're looking to leverage with that. And as I alluded to before, over the last couple years, we've seen a significant growth across the region. And I think, anecdotally, if you drive around the region or you're familiar with it, you will notice it. Like, it is very notable. And we've seen that reflected in our call volumes and how busy we are. And in addition, we've seen a lot of industries added through different parts of Durham region. So we've seen both industrial growth as well as residential growth. And that's obviously led to increased, impact on our air quality and such. So, as I previously mentioned, due to the nature of our fleet and how dynamic we are, it gives us this unique opportunity to be able to monitor the air quality across the region on any given day and any given time, just given that we are 24/7 and we can be pretty much at any spot across the region at any time. So it gives us this unique opportunity to really be a dynamic air quality monitoring vehicle. So in terms of air quality information, the provincial ministry provides the Air Quality Health Index forecast for the province. And as you can see on the right there, it's just listed in terms of the scale and the impact. The ministry uses 39 ambient air monitoring stations. So again, these would be stationary and fixed areas to collect real-time air pollution data. And they also issue the air quality statements and the smog advisories, air health advisories, and stuff like that. So again, basically this air quality health index is what we're looking at in terms of the scale and how suitable it is for different types of activities and how it may impact the population. So air quality, so the impact of it really, poor air quality poses a significant threat to our health. It is, linked to instances of stroke, heart disease, and respiratory disease. And I think, given the recent events with the wildfires across the province, and we've been feeling the impact across the GTA area. And so I think everybody's probably fairly familiar with a lot of those advisories recently. And we know, a lot of warnings have come around about, the health impact and stuff like that. So we know it can worsen health issues. And of course, worsening health issues is a direct correlation back to RTDS, just given that, we are primary healthcare provider to the region. So it is estimated that the cost of air pollution is 120 billion per year in Canada, which is, very substantial. So it is something of a vested interest, both, in terms of direct health, as well as, the impact of that. So some of the common air contaminants that we look for is, they're all listed here, but sulfur oxide, nitrogen oxides, particulate matter, ground level ozone, carbon monoxide, VOCs, and ammonia. So the region strives to reduce GHG emissions, improve air quality, and encourage sustainability. And a lot of that, we try through and through with our fleet and with our buildings to build in sustainability initiatives so that we take that on and commit to improving sort of the air quality and the GHG emission impact of the region. So in terms of the challenge itself, we want to challenge the business community to provide a mobile air quality monitoring system that would enable RDPS to monitor the air quality at high spatial resolution across the Durham region. So again, like I alluded to, essentially, we'd like our vehicles to be mobile air quality monitoring vehicles. And that'll give us a lot more coverage than just, stationary sites of air quality monitoring. So the ideal solution would accomplish the following. So monitor the air quality and temperature surrounding the emergency vehicle while in use, provide high spatial resolution for the data, and an easy to view dashboard of traffic related air pollution, and then provide cumulative reporting so that we can analyze the data, for 3 to 6 months or a 12-month period. And this gives us the ability to sort of compare the data over different periods and different times as well. The data will allow us to compare not only objective air quality in localized area, but understanding how it varies as a function of time. So as we know, during rush hour, there's increased vehicle traffic, overnight when there's reduced vehicle traffic, and then obviously like weekdays and weekends. So it gives us that ability to see how is the air quality impacted during those times. And collecting that data definitely can inform health department policies and planning within the region. So again, understanding the vehicle traffic and how that impacts it. And so going forward, I think definitely by having that data, we can use that to when we make new policies or when we plan new residential areas or industrial areas as well. So that's pretty much the end of the information I had in regards to the challenge, and I'll pass it back to Chris now, who'll take you through his second section here.
Great, and thank you very much, Devin and Alex, for that explanation of the challenge. This is really an interesting one because I think it actually focuses on an area that I think tends to get ignored in all this, which is the connected part. As our vehicles become electric, they're more and more connected and automated. So I'm looking forward to delving into this in our Q&A with you both as we go. But again, just if there are questions from Alex and Devin's presentation, please put those in the chat. I thought I would just familiarize people a little bit more with the benefits of the Durham RTDS and then get into the funding before we get into the Q&A. But just a reminder for those of you out there who are joining us today that really at no cost to the company, you're able to access a wide variety of services and benefits. Firstly, you get an introduction to an incredibly collaborative ecosystem in the Durham region. And for those of you not familiar with the Durham region, we have the Regional Municipality of Durham, which is the overarching municipality. And then we are made up of 8 other municipalities: the city of Pickering, town of Ajax, town of Whitby, city of Oshawa, municipality of Clarington. There is the township of Brock, township of Scugog, and township of Uxbridge. So a wide variety of municipal sort of test beds or sandboxes that could be used to demonstrate your particular application. Also, something people don't tend to think about, that the region of Durham has a wide variety of test beds itself, including those that are contained in the Ontario Tech ACE Automotive Center of Excellence that has a variety of world-class world-class test beds. Durham College, in its applied research hubs, has contained test beds. And then if you think of the geography in Durham, we have a variety of urban, rural, and agricultural test beds, as well as climatic variation if you travel north to south in the region. So just a wide variety of interesting opportunities and environments to test off technology for electric, connected, and automated vehicles. As well, the Durham RTDS provides a variety of services through Spark and its business development services, including introductions to potential customers, introductions to angels and other funding organizations, and of course, Ontario Tech and Durham College providing technical services, access to specialized equipment, skills, and people. And as well, you get a wraparound support in developing your demonstration project. And I'll talk about that a little bit more as we get into that. So I would encourage those of you not familiar with the Durham RTDS to Google us and just put in durhamrtds.ca, and you'll find information about us. And that is also the website that will provide all of the information for your application and submission for the challenge. So please go to the website, click on the challenge, and you'll find all the information there you need. So now I'm going to pull up the presentation on the funding, and we'll just talk to you a little bit about that. I just want to remind everyone that the funding that we are using for the demonstration and other projects is OVIN, the Ontario Vehicle Innovation Network funding that is generously provided through the province, through our Ministry of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, and administered by Ontario Centre of Innovation. And I wanted to talk to you about really 4 areas of funding that are important in this. And just actually before I do that, I just do want to make it clear that it's not the Region of Durham who will provide and or guarantee funding for whoever wins the demonstration challenge, or the challenge that we have. It's basically we will help support the funding application. And I just want to make that point because although we thought we made that clear, we have had a number of misunderstandings. So you will actually have to apply for the funding, but all the partners will assist in that and support, and we all have experience in developing funding applications. So what we have here are primarily 4 funding programs. We have the electric vehicle funding program, as well as the connected and autonomous vehicle and smart mobility program. And I mention those together because they're quite similar in that there are 2 basic streams for each of these funding pots. Obviously, the electric vehicle program actually looks more at electric vehicles and battery-focused technologies and anything related to that. And the CAV and Smart Mobility Fund looks for the development, testing, and demonstration of connected, automated, and smart mobility type technologies. Each of these has 2 streams. The first will fund a project up to $100,000, and I'll talk about that and matching. And then the next level is $1 million. And fundamentally, what that means to you as an SME is that for a project with a total value of, say, $300,000, OVIN, if you are actually accepted and your application is successful, will or could provide $100,000. You as a company would provide $200,000. So it's a 1 to 2 match in this. The $100,000 sort of support is for projects that are of 12 months in length, and the $1 million are for projects of 24 months, not 24,000 months, for that. And in those, if you need more information, we will certainly make sure you get an introduction to John George, who is our OCI BD, and we can get detailed assistance on that. The next 2 funding pots that we have here are the WinterTech pot, and the WinterTech pot is specifically to help develop technology in the electric, connected, and automated vehicle space, having to do with winter-related technology, which in Ontario, we are uniquely positioned to provide that environment. This particular fund will, again, provide funding to successful applicants up to 500,000, and similarly, that would mean that a project valuation would be of 1.5 million. The successful application would provide 500,000, and the company would provide $1 million for a project up to 24 months. And then we have the Talent Development Fund, which basically is eligible for small and medium-sized enterprises to actually hire either fellows, PhD grads, or postdoc fellows, or interns, which could be college and university graduates, recent graduates, and master's graduates, and support them in work within a project in this space, which again, development of electric, connected, and automated vehicle technologies, smart mobility technologies, up to 30 to 35,000, depending on the length of that particular engagement. And so, if you have detailed questions about this, we will in fact introduce you to our OCI business development person, and they can walk you through that. So that's it for the funding. We should maybe now go to our live Q&A. And so I would like to ask both Devin and Alex to join me on the stage to really sort of see what questions we might have. So let's just see. I don't know if we have any questions there. Maybe we've got someone asked whether all presentation materials will be made available, and I guess this session is being actually recorded, and that record will be made available on the BIDS site so that any proponents can access that. Let's just see. Don't see too many questions in the chat, but I actually have a question or two maybe for Devin and Alex. And maybe, Alex, you had mentioned in the beginning that there were data gaps in terms of your, I guess you called them the health neighborhoods within the region. Maybe I could just ask you to expand upon that just a little bit more, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, it's actually one of my favorite topics to talk about, Chris.
Okay.
As a umbrella category, a big one is anything environmental related. So things like air quality, water quality. There are some things more related to climate change. So when I'm not working on health neighborhoods, I'm actually our climate change epi. So things like, are you part of a heat island? What is your land surface temperature? Those sorts of things. And the biggest challenge is spatial resolution for that. So because our health neighborhoods are really small, it's really hard for us to get a hold of data that is at a geographic resolution that's appropriate to present it at. And then the other challenges we have is we have something called the Canadian Health Survey. And that's where we get a lot of self-reported health information. So you could report all of your chronic diseases or illnesses that you're currently experiencing. And that's a really great resource. But because we have these really tiny areas, we actually don't get enough data from that to allow us to actually present it at that level, because we have a whole bunch of requirements we have to hit for privacy. And at that size, we just don't get enough for that. So that's where another one of kind of those challenges come in. And then anything health related, any indicators related to children is very difficult just because of consent and those sorts of things. But the environmental one is the one that I'm particularly the most interested in, because it has such an important impact on people's health. And I'm really personally trying to work on having people understand that their environment is not just, oh, it's hot today, this is uncomfortable. It actually has we're all interconnected in that. It's really important. So that's probably the biggest data gap.
Okay, interesting. Thank you for that. And I guess it is sort of this environmental sort of data and lack of it, or the need to monitor for privacy, is that sort of a global challenge? Is that occur everywhere? I'm just kind of thinking about the size of the market, that if someone were to propose a solution and that worked here in Durham, that would clearly be applicable across Canada, North America, maybe globally. Would that be the case?
So the nice thing about environmental indicators, which makes
Mm-hmm.
them a little bit easier, is they don't generally have the same caveats to privacy.
Okay.
Because they're really not, you can't identify anyone. Now, there
Mm.
are some political concerns about some things if it can impact housing prices.
Ah,
That's a thing. I'm not going to get into it because I'll get myself
okay.
in trouble. But
Interesting.
the rest of them, so things like pollen, air quality, there are things that should be reported regardless of if it would
Mm-hmm.
impact housing prices or not. And because it's not actually personal health data, we have no challenges from the privacy side. It's just, do we
Okay.
actually have enough data at that level to present an accurate estimate?
Right.
So if anyone has any ideas on how we can get any data like that at a health unit level, you would have a lot of people who would be very, very interested in it. I think that
Interesting.
answers your
Interesting.
question.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. It's an interesting thing, and I think it brings up lots of issues as we again move into an era of where our vehicles, besides becoming electric, become increasingly connected and automated, and the new challenges that it brings up. So thank you for that. I wanted to ask Devin too. Like, I mean, you'd mentioned emergency vehicles, and obviously they're not planned routes, right? They're all over the place, responding as needed. And has there been discussion on? I mean, do they currently have monitoring on them, or is this sort of challenge maybe a new initiative to start to think about how these vehicles that operate in our communities can provide additional value to health and other things? I mean, what's sort of been the discussion around monitoring and the use of them as a platform?
Yeah, so I think for it hasn't been used in the past. It hasn't been something. It's new to us. But when you think about, I mentioned in the presentation, but that unique opportunity we have, really, like with the coverage that we have and that sort of dynamic, it really is a unique opportunity to collect data. And if you think about the size of Durham region, that's the challenge, right? Like trying to get
Mm-hmm.
data from every corner. And how can we do that? Well, we have some ambulances, 50 of them that traverse that area. So really, I think, it's something that we haven't really thought about, but it makes sense. Like you think about it and go, it gives us that opportunity because we're there anyways. And there are certain routes that we will traverse that are like the main arteries, your
Mm-hmm.
401s, your Highway 2 and such. But outside of that, like if you start thinking about residential areas, right? Like, that's not something normally you may not put a station in every sort of subdivision out there. Where if we're attending to calls in these areas, it gives us that opportunity to be a mobile sort of monitoring vehicle. So I think it's definitely something that we just started looking at. And yeah, and also it gives us, I think what's nice with it being dynamic as well is, you get the opportunity to get that data, in the morning. Sometimes it'll be overnight, sometimes it'll be on the weekends, and then you can overlay that in terms of like, your vehicular traffic and have a comparison of, what's the ambient, is there, and how long does it take, pollution to dissipate over, like, as well, right? Like
Yeah.
from the rush hour peak to sort of overnight where the traffic's at a low, what's that sort of delta look like? And but yeah, it's something new to us. It's not something we've thought about before, but something that we're like, we could really leverage this opportunity for us. So
Okay.
Sure, I'm
Yeah.
just going to
Interesting.
pop in to add something
Yeah.
that Devin reminded me of. One of our challenges is actually getting data for the north. So from an equity perspective, and this is not just Durham Region, this is Canada in general, a lot of our northern, more rural areas, they just don't have any, temperature sensors or weather stations or that sort of stuff. So a lot of the time it's either we have no data or we are saying we have stuff for Oshawa and we're going to assume it's okay for Brock, but we know it probably isn't.
Okay.
So that's
Right.
the nice thing about something that is mobile and actually gets out to the northern communities is that would be really important from an equity perspective.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's very interesting. And it would seem that as part of this, just based on what you're saying there, that the weather and also potentially the geography could be factors that you would hope, I guess, whoever is looking at this would to maybe start to try to understand it. I don't know. I'm not a data expert, but it makes me think of with AI and generative AI being in the news that. This looks like a very interesting opportunity for an application for modeling using that sort of technology to really try to better understand all this. And the one thing I would like to come back to briefly to, Alex, you had mentioned the idea of privacy. And one of the things we know that as we talk about, again, electric, connected, and automated vehicles, that they're going to generate all sorts of interesting cases where maybe current legislation, regulatory issues haven't either caught up, or now we haven't had to deal with something such as privacy. Could you just maybe say a few things about where or what type of legislation any proponents to this challenge should be aware of, that they should take into consideration as they think about what that solution might be?
So I'm not the best one
That's
to
okay.
ask. I do have a contact if anyone wanted to reach out
Okay.
from a health privacy perspective. They're amazing. But I would say, based on my knowledge currently, I don't think that there's any legislation at all that would play a factor in the sort of data that could be collected for this particular project.
Okay.
There hopefully will be in the future, especially
Mhm.
as you brought up AI and machine learning. I don't think we actually have enough stops, or we haven't given enough thought to that.
Mhm.
But from anything that would be collected in a project like this, I can't see currently any issues of privacy or policy that would negate some of this work.
Okay. Okay. No, that's good. Helpful. I probably at least a proponent should look at that in terms of their particular solution, and just to ensure that again there aren't regulatory requirements they're going to run into.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the times it would be more like scale. So
Hmm.
just the best example I have is I've worked with radon in households. So
Hmm.
obviously we couldn't likely present like a very small like meter by meter grid, and that
Hmm.
makes sense. So although it's not a policy based or legislated, it's more from the data stewards should be aware of that and
Okay.
not causing harm if this is something that we're presenting externally, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Okay. Yep. No. Okay. That's a great thing. Actually, maybe just a question. I see one in the chat around funding that I'll get to in just a minute. But a question I want to ask Devin, and this. Let me know if I'm straying into the area that maybe people need to ask this. In the addendum, I was told we would be recording this, and purchasing would ensure they're actually included in there. But it occurs to me that emergency vehicles will have a lot of onboard electronic equipment and other things like that. Assumedly, you would be looking for a solution that doesn't interfere with the operation of EMS and that. And I'm just wondering where people might go to kind of understand what type of activities and/or equipment are on an ambulance, and the types of considerations that they might need to take into consideration when they think about a solution.
Sure. So just in terms of what we have generally on a vehicle, we do have a modem, a
Hmm.
AVL tracker to track the
Hmm.
location of all of our vehicles. We have laptops. We have 2 laptops on every truck. In addition, we have a suction unit, a powered suction unit on the vehicle, as well as a defibrillator,
Hmm.
which is a Zoll X series defibrillator. The Zoll is it's battery powered as well, and a lot of this is located in the interior of the vehicle, like inside the patient compartment. If we were to locate this anywhere on the exterior, I think there would be limited impact to the
Okay.
to any equipment in regards to that. But we do have already our modems are wireless. They have a SIM card, they're cellular and a Wi-Fi. So those don't interfere with our equipment today. So I don't think there'd be any challenges if it is transmitting anything via cellular or anything like that, any data back.
Yeah.
I don't think it will pose issues to us. So.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you very much. I do have one more question for you both, but I am going to just go and answer the funding question, then I'll come back and ask you the question here. There was a question asked about saying, and I'll just read it. It says, the winner of the challenge will have to fund 2/3 of the project in-house and apply to OCI to cover 1/3 of the project. That is correct. And it says, when you say Durham RTS will support the application, do you mean as an official partner on the OCI application, but will not financially contribute? I would say not as an official partner, but as certainly a supporting partner. And we will provide expertise in writing the grant funding for that. So typically letters of support and then assistance in actually how to actually write the application would be the type of support that we would actually supply to the proponent. And let's see, there was a question here about testing phases are necessary during the project or just the application in the end. I'm not quite sure I understand that. I guess maybe I might ask Devin, maybe as you've thought this through, or maybe Alex, I'm assuming some I guess allowance for testing the technology in sort of in the environment is envisioned, or could be part of the project. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, so I think the way we envision it, and I don't know how it sort of overlays into the official application and process side of things, but the way we envision it is sort of a prototype testing on one vehicle, ensuring that we sort of have the data necessary and things are working as expected initially. Again, I don't know how that sort of falls into the official application process, but we would be looking at not at rolling it out in all 50 vehicles initially, but sort of a prototype and then onto a single vehicle, and then basically observing that for a period of time. And yeah.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. And again, we're not telling the proponents how to do or how to position their solution. It's just those would be kind of general expectations of what might be in the proposal. Alex, did you want to add anything to that in terms of testing phases, or how you maybe what anything you might see that you would expect to be part of a proposal?
This one is a bit out of my wheelhouse, so I'm not sure. I would say some testing and some validation is always good, especially if I was a recipient of the data. I would want to make sure that things were calibrated and the measures are what you would expect, as well as some like variance type measures as well.
Right. So the proponent has kind of built in something to validate their methods, their data, and their equipment. Okay, no, that's good. Interesting question just came into the chat. It said, would it be interesting to add a use case where, say, emergency responders could have data available to them for an incident? Example, are they attending an incident which someone is having an asthma attack, and then they would know the air quality levels at the scene itself? And would this be a potential use case also? Okay, so that sounds like that sounds like that would be useful. That certainly could be one use case, and I could see that being valuable if that was the type of thing. Would that be agreed, Alex? That could be helpful.
Sorry if I'm laughing. I actually have asthma, and my neighbor really enjoys having ginormous bonfires, and it's been a struggle for me this year. So yes, it would be incredibly helpful. It's something that we generally don't have data on, even from like an academic point of view, unless someone was going to be collecting that. That's where we would get into challenges of privacy. And I feel like Devin would have some thoughts on that and how it works from their side. For us, if it's aggregated, we might be able to use it, but that is something that would be like incredibly helpful.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Devin, did you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, so it is incredibly useful. In terms of operationally, I almost see that being as a next step, in a sense where like they don't have, I think, the time really to interpret data when they're out in the field. It almost needs to be a pretty binary or a range, like something that gives you an alert per se, right? Like as you're coming to any scene, it doesn't necessarily have to be only asthma, or it could give you sort of an indicator to say the air quality in this area is whatever, and that gives you, you know, an indication, an added sort of indication of why the patient might have a certain condition, right? Like it's sort of that added factor as you're pulling to a scene. I don't think we'd be able to collect data directly related to patient calls. That's not something we're able to do due to privacy laws. But I think if you are able to sort of translate real-time information on the outside of the vehicle as you're arriving at a scene into some sort of, you know, the air quality in this area is in this range, you know, and it also could indicate to paramedics to wear certain respiratory, right? If it is sort of a lot of particulate matter, like it could indicate to them to wear their N95 mask or what in regards to that, right? I think there is some opportunity to leverage that data. I do think that in my head, it's sort of like another phase, like it would be layering on an added feature to it, because I think we'd have to have the data first and then sort of have some sort of criteria to say this falls into this range or there's elevated levels of this, you know, to use caution. It would have to be pretty binary for us. They wouldn't have time to sort of say, to interpret that data. It just have to be a warning almost, or something like that.
Okay,
actually, with a few seconds for my brain to catch up, if we had the data set with the air quality measurements, and we pull emergency department visits all the time, and we do get our DPS data for other things, if we could just look at our DPS calls, because they do actually have a lot of information in them in the call notes, we could just take those two data sets and look at an analysis after the fact to see, in areas where we've had higher particulate level, do we see an increase in asthma, COPD, any of those respiratory incidents, or some of the other chronic diseases that can be exacerbated by air quality that aren't necessarily respiratory related. So that wouldn't be a one-to-one, but it would be enough to actually look at those without ruining any privacy.
No, thank you both very much. I think, you know, for me, it brings up maybe three things here that are really important for proponents. Certainly one, again, the application of privacy legislation, that certainly has to be understood to ensure that that is respected and met. I think two, that you know, in terms of the paramedics, when they're responding, it is to respond to that particular emergency, and they're not going to take time to worry about other sort of tertiary or secondary activities. So that would have to be really important in all of that. And I think thirdly, it's easy to see how when we talk about topics like this, we can start to kind of increase the scope of all sorts of things. Lots of good ideas come on, and how important it will be for the proponent to stay closely to what the scope of the RFP that's posted for the challenge is. So that's good. Well, I don't see any other questions in the chat, and I think we've had a good discussion on this. So I wanted to thank you, Devin and Alex, for your participation in all of this, and I think we'll move to the closing remarks. So thank you both very much.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay, so we've heard firsthand from Devin and Alex on the challenge and their objectives, and I hope you found some of that conversation useful and helpful. And just a reminder, additional questions that come up after this need to be submitted to the bids and tender website, and you can find that by Googling the Region of Durham bids and tender website. If you've not had the chance to download the two information documents, there is a full challenge detail and a submission guideline, and that is on the Durham RTDS website, and that's under the challenge tab. So you can go there to download those two documents, and that is also where you will submit those. And at the moment, it is an email type submission, but there are instructions for the submission on the Durham RTDS website. So please do go there. Two key deadlines for everyone to remember is that all questions must be submitted by August 9th, 4 p.m., and they will go into an addendum to be resubmitted out by the at their bids and tender website, so that they will be available to all proponents, and that the challenge submission deadline is on or before August 23rd, 2023 at 4 p.m. So that's a key date to remember. Also, just like to remind everyone of the benefits of being either a participant or a partner with the Durham RTDS, whether you're a small or medium-sized enterprise and you're looking to actually get your technology commercialized, or you're a large organization, a corporation, and you're looking to actually develop more of your innovation portfolio by having exposure to a wide variety of small and medium-sized enterprises developing technology in this space. Please reach out to the Durham RTDS, and you can see that there is contact information for us there. If anyone runs into a problem in submitting or understanding how to submit your challenge, you can email us at info@durhamrtds.ca to get assistance for that. And as always, any general questions you might have about the Durham RTDS, same thing, you can reach out and contact us there. So I would just like to thank everyone for attending today's information session, and like to wish you on this nice July Friday, have a great rest of your day and a great weekend, and thanks so much for your interest in our challenges.